beautiful. Let's breathe a little more, shall we? Take a deep breath in and let it go. Another deep breath in and let go. One more deep breath in. It's remarkable to me how radically our world is changing around us all the time. You know, just in the last week, I found that the James Webb Telescope photos and the scientists who are examining all this tell us we think the Big Bang might not actually be the model of the universe. It's like, oh my God, our creation story just went away. You know, and the Queen has passed this week, and you know, globally we are honoring and recognizing her, and really this is a great turning time, right? Our stories are changing. Everything around us is changing, from the cosmic all the way down to the interpersonal, right? And, you know, this month our theme that we're exploring is use and value renewables. And in the permaculture perspective, that's really talking about renewable energy, right? Looking towards sustainability, looking towards replicating nature, and realizing that in order for us to thrive, we have to recognize that nothing can be wasted, that we have to build systems and ways of doing and being and thinking that are constantly bringing us back to this place of renewability. And as I've been contemplating this idea, this sort of phrase from the Bible kept sort of swirling around in my mind for the last couple weeks, which is, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Right? Which is, oh so science of mind, right? Don't we say, change your thinking, change your life? That's kind of the same thing as, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And, you know, we talk a lot about spiritual practice, meditation, spiritual mind treatment, affirmations, all of the things that we do to help us tune into that place that helps us renew our mind, refresh our thinking, bring ourselves back to center, right? And in the midst of fabulously tumultuous times, I think it's incredibly important for us to really recognize that we have to renew our mind. We have to refresh our thinking, right? We've probably all heard the story about the couple who's sitting in their living room, and one partner looks out the window at the neighbors drying their laundry on the line and says, "My goodness, they're hanging out all their dirty laundry." And the next day they look out and it's drying again. She goes, "My goodness, those people don't know how to wash their clothes. All of those clothes are dirty on the line." She says, "Maybe we should do something about it." "Well, we'll just watch them do it," right? And then the next day, one of the partners looks out the window and says, "My God, their laundry's clean." And partner two says, "Yes, wash the window." Right? And Emma Curtis Hopkins, who's one of the sort of founders of the New Thought movement, uses this analogy of our perspective is like looking through a window. And over time, we have experiences, people say things to us, stuff happens in our life or in our bodies, in the world, and it's like all the dust and the dirt and the mud gets splattered on the window. And we're looking through a distorted perspective. When all we have to do is wash the windows to see clearly what's on the other side. And what we maybe know here is that it's things like meditation that help us wash the windows of our perspective so that we can see more clearly what truly is, right? And, you know, if I told you that there was one thing that you could do that would help you clear your mind, perhaps raise your IQ, perhaps help you feel and look and seem a little bit younger, to purify your body, to reduce pain. If there was one thing that I told you you could do that would do all of those things, would you do it?
Yes.
Great. Meditate for 20 minutes every day. That's it. And that's not even a spiritual thing. Like, meditation at this point in our human history is something that is deeply studied by neurologists, by biologists, by doctors, looking at the fact that meditation, just the simple act of sitting and breathing deeply, can refresh the entire mind-body system and help bring it back to a sense of newness, of wholeness, of health and well-being. All we have to do is stop and breathe for a little bit. That's your renewable energy. It's your breath. It's your awareness. And if we're not actively doing the work that it takes to sit down and do that sort of mental window washing, right? We can walk through the world and have a whole lot of stuff that gets layered on what is. We start to look through that muddied perspective. We start to see everything through our pain. We start to see things through our trauma. We start to see things through our dissatisfaction with what is, instead of focusing on what could be. Instead of renewing our mind so that what we look through is the eyes of spirit, is the eyes of truth, where we're looking for wholeness, where we're looking for possibility, where we're looking for the good. Right? And if we aren't willing to take that time, even if it's just you start with 2 minutes every day, to just stop and breathe, that's enough to begin to shift what's happening on the inside. Right? It's like if your house needs a deep cleaning, you can't do it all at once. Start with one room. Start with one window. Right? Start with one drawer, one closet. It's the same thing. Start with 2 minutes a day to just sit and breathe. And I think one of the purest teachers of meditation that's been around in the last generation or so was Thich Nhat Hanh. And he's passed in the last year. And he was one of the first meditation teachers that I ever got exposed to, who I really resonated with, because his whole teaching was that meditation is nothing if it isn't just breath. Don't worry about what your mind is doing. So many people tell me, I can't meditate because I can't get my mind to stop. 'Tis not the point. The point is to stop and breathe. Your thoughts follow your breath. Notice that when we do that deep breathing and we pause for just a moment between the in-breath and the out-breath, you might notice a fraction of a second of stillness. That stillness can expand the more time you give it time, right? But meditation is not about stopping the mind. It's just about observing the mind, taking the opportunity to be in the present moment. You know, more often than not, most of us, even me right now while I'm speaking, only breathe in the upper 10% capacity of our ability to breathe. That when we're talking, when we're engaging with life, when we're walking around, we're taking these short, shallow breaths instead of stopping. Breathing fully and exhaling. That process is a process of purification for our blood, for our cells, for our bodies, and also for our mind. You know, neuroscience a generation ago told us that the brain does not change. That you're born with the neurons you're born with, that you're born with the capacities you have, and that never changes. And in the last couple decades, the neuroscience has told us something completely different. The brain is plastic. The brain can be renewed. The brain can be changed. The brain can be shifted and transformed based on the mental practices, the activities, the things that we do in our life to keep our brains fresh and new. Right? And so meditation, again, is one of those things that the science tells us actively creates new neurons in the brain. Meditation actively creates new synaptic connections, helps the brain grow to be more cohesive, to be more healthy. Ken Wilber says that just a simple act of a half an hour of meditation a day can increase your IQ by like 10 points over the course of a couple years. Simply by sitting and breathing. deeper connections become available. And when we build a more cohesive mind that is constantly making new connections, we then become thinkers who can look into the world and see connections that we couldn't see before. Right? And that's the thing that I think we all need to learn. We talk all the time about our dedication to possibility. We're here about possibility thinking. Well, possibility thinking is really about seeing beyond what is and looking to what could be, connecting the dots that perhaps couldn't be seen to be connected before. And for us to break out of the systems in our own lives that are holding us back, whether it be our thinking or our health or our finances or our relationships, in order to shift those things, we have to shift our perspective. We have to stop telling the old stories and start telling the new stories. To be a people who are so dedicated to possibility that we look for it everywhere we go. And the only things we give our whole felt attention to are the possibilities that we want to move towards. Right? How often do you find yourself saying over and over and over again out loud the things you don't want to see happen? And yet we know that the more we speak to what is, the more we perpetuate what is. The more we speak whatever, we are inviting into our lives. Right? And so do you say, I'm going to be in more pain tomorrow than I am today? Or do you say, maybe tomorrow I could be in less pain? Right? I talked to someone here a while ago who shared a story with me about some back pain and saw a practitioner and got some prayer. And the person said, what if you weren't in pain tomorrow? And they woke up the next day and said, I'm clearly in less pain than I was yesterday. Right? We can shift our physical experience based on our attention. The more we focus on what we don't want, the more we focus on what isn't working, guess what? We start to get anxious. We start to get tense. It does the exact opposite of what our spiritual practices do. Those perseverative thoughts, those fears and worries, age us. They cause our brain to get frozen in its mode of thinking and don't allow us to see possibilities. And in order for us to be a people of possibility, we have to be developing the minds on a regular basis that are open and willing to see it. You know, we do have to recognize what is, but don't give it all of your attention. Right? It's the things you give your emotions to, your energy to, your attention to that are going to grow. And so find a way to phrase your questions and your inquiries about what is in ways that open you to possibility.
Yes.
Right? Instead of saying, this is going to happen, this thing that I don't want is going to happen, say, wow, I'm in a really interesting moment and I'm excited to see what the new possibility might look like. Right? Instead of declaring what you don't want, speak that you are open to what you do want. And see it happen. One of the things that I know is that when we truly move our mind into believing a thought, it will move into our experience quickly. But oftentimes, we don't move our whole mind to where we want to be. We say we want what we want. We ask for prayer for what we want. And then many times we spend a lot of our energy countering that invitation. And we need to learn how to stand in possibility and be the people who are willing to look so clearly at ourselves and recognize that it's the refreshing and the renewing of our own perspective that we have to do on a regular basis. But when we do that, we allow ourselves to see things we couldn't see before. And what we all need, what our society needs, what the world needs, is people who are willing to look at what is and see what's waiting to be revealed instead of focusing on what is and what has been. Because the more we focus on what is and what has been, guess what, my friends? We're just going to keep getting more of that. And in my opinion, what is and what has been needs to be banished into the creative void from which it came so that we can open ourselves up to really begin to build a world that works, build a community that works, build society that works. But that means that we have to be really clear about the possibilities that we're standing for, the people that we're standing with, the values that are deeply important to us as we are moving towards a greater vision. And so, as you've heard, we've been doing our land acknowledgement. We've brought this statement that Centers for Spiritual Living, Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee wrote about our values and who and what we stand for and with, because this is a way of declaring the possibility, the truth, the kind of world that we want to live in, and saying, this is who we are. Instead of saying, there's all these problems out there, there's all this separation out there, there's all these people who aren't in alignment with us, we're saying, you know what? This is what we stand for. And we're going to claim it and declare it over and over and over again so that eventually maybe we start to see it in our community. We start to see these things reflected in our lives. We start to see a different mode of thinking emerge from our own brains, where we start to see things a little bit differently, where we start to be the people who are willing and able to be the uplifters of consciousness. But we have to recognize, as always, that it has to start with ourselves. If we can't shift our own minds, how in the hell are you going to change anybody else's mind? And if you want to see the world out there change, guess where it has to start? Right here. And so I want you to really think for yourself. What is the practice? What is the activity? What is it that you do or that you're willing to do that helps you refresh your perspective, that helps you get still, help you take a step back from all that stuff and return to a greater truth? Maybe that's a simple practice of meditation for 2 minutes a day. Maybe grow that over time. Maybe for you it's walking on the beach, yes, or sitting in your hot tub, yes, or being in a spiritual conversation with someone, or reading a sacred text. We all might have different ways of accessing that refreshing, renewing perspective. But I want us all to commit to finding the pathway there. And it might be different for each one of us. Some of us tap into that space through song, some of us through movement, some of us through stillness, right? And so if you've noticed over the last number of months, we've developed all kinds of offerings here throughout the week, throughout the month, to do the Tara dances and the dances of universal peace, to do Qigong, to be part of a song circle or a discussion group or a class or a meditation. We're creating all of these opportunities for each one of us to find the mode that really helps you drop into that place of refresh, renewed mind. But find your pathway there. If you're not willing to start with meditation, that's fine. I'll give you some time. But maybe go for a walk in nature and commit to doing it. Maybe even just sit and watch the sunset. Right? Jean Houston says that the contemplation of beauty is one of the greatest practices we can cultivate for ourselves. Because in beauty there is awe. In awe there is the beauty of creation, feedback looping back to itself. The divine is in beauty. Look for beauty. Meditate. Be still. And see what happens as you commit to a practice, whatever it is, washing the perspective and bringing it back to truth. That's what we're all about. The more we can return to that, the more we can be the revealers of that truth in our own lives and in the lives of those around us. So take a deep breath, and let's be still for a minute. And just take another deep breath in. and let go. And I invite you for the next couple minutes to just breathe slowly and deeply. And just pay attention to that ebb and flow, that rise and fall of breath through your body. Feel the relaxation, the available sense of peace that comes when we just sit and breathe. And as you breathe, I invite each of us to contemplate this idea that we are being breathed by something greater than ourselves. That it is the infinite, that it is God, that it is life itself, the universe itself, that is breathing our bodies. That rise and fall of breath is the ebb and flow of spirit moving through us, animating us. And so as we breathe, let us just remember that there is one seamless presence that is living and breathing everyone and everything. One life, one truth, one source of all that is. And let our very breath be the reminder that that is the truth of who we are. That each one of us is life, that we are the universe, that we are consciousness and evolution and creation unfolding right here and right now. And so let us each dedicate to our own source, recognizing that through a simple practice of breath, through a simple practice of contemplating beauty, by being in the stillness, we can refresh our perspective. Our minds can be made new so that it is truth that we see through our eyes. Let each one of us be committed to daily renewing our minds, allowing a higher perspective to see through us so that we can be a people who can see through what is currently into what could be, and then be the ones who call it into existence to live through us. So let us be a people who are willing to live into the change that is needed, to hear the invitation that is calling us, and recognize that before anything out there can change, we have to start with ourselves. And so may we be transformed by the renewing of our minds and return to that place of awareness each and every day through a dedication to our own spiritual practice, knowing that as we do so, the something more will reveal itself. And so may we be guided, may we be pulled towards the possible and commit to clearing our own perspective so that we may look for and from the truth. And so it is.